A couple of months ago, I did a video called The 10 Commandments of Solo Acoustic.
Yes, Lord!
Where I listed 10 mistakes that you want to avoid at your solo acoustic gigs. The video got a great response, and thanks to all of your wonderful and insightful comments, I realized that there were some additional rules that I missed, or quite frankly, was totally unaware of. So thanks again to all of you for the input. And plus, as we all know from the Mel Brooks movie History of the World, there were really supposed to be 15 commandments.
The Lord Jehovah, has given unto you these 15. Wait. 10 commandments.
This is a historical fact. If you believe that, I have a bridge I'd like to sell you. But as I was putting this video together, more great ideas kept rolling in from all of you. So I just had to add a few more at the last minute. Now we have a total of 19 commandments. Technically, I should call this the 19 Commandments of Solo Acoustic, but then I wouldn't be able to use the Mel Brooks B-roll. Maybe next time I'll just go for the full 20, just to keep things interesting. So, if the last video was your ultimate guide of what not to do, think of this as your ultimate guide. I'll review some of the old rules and I'll mix in the new ones. I don't know if this is even possible, but if we missed anything else that you could think of, please let us know in the comments. And by all means, feel free to skip around the chapters if you are only interested in the new ones. I labeled them as such. And one last thing, before we get into all the thou shalt nots, remember, thou shalt go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join this fine community of pious troubadours. Let's get started, shall we? This is one from the old video, or should I say, the Old Testament. And it really is the most important. Thou shalt not arrive late. Like they say, timing is everything. And if you aren't early, then you're late. And I couldn't agree more.
Just couldn't make it on time. You mean you couldn't or you wouldn't?
For familiar venues, I'll aim to be there 30 minutes before showtime. For new venues or private events, arrive an hour early, definitely. Additionally, at private events, you might need help from someone familiar with the venue to help you find your setup spot and where the power outlets are, which takes time. Earlier in the day of the gig, check the venue's travel time using Apple Maps or Google Maps, and remember that traffic can change as the day goes on. For commandment number 2, we're taking a great suggestion from Russell Saunders, 9502, from our last video. Thanks, Russell, for this one. Thou shalt not forget to pack extra. So we arrive on time, start loading in all of our equipment, and that's great. But do we have backups for all of our essentials? Extra strings, cables, mics, tuners, capos, batteries, even maybe a backup guitar. Not having one of these seemingly simple items can totally break a gig. If you don't want to carry too many extra items with you on your person, consider having an emergency kit in your car. Ideally, you'd want it right there with you at the gig, but it's still better to run out to the car and fetch a spare cable than to have to scrap your whole performance if something crucial fails. This is especially important if you're playing a gig somewhere remote, like far from a town or a city, or even in a foreign country, like let's say Mexico. What? You didn't see my travel gig where I played a solo acoustic gig in Mexico? Definitely check it out. The link is in the description. Being prepared with backups ensures that your performance goes smoothly no matter what unexpected issues arise. It's these little preparations that can set you apart as a professional and keep your shows running seamlessly. Commandment number 3. This is a big one and another review from the first vid. Thou shalt not play too loud.
Wow, that's really loud.
Yeah, thanks.
As musicians, especially as guitarists, we often play way too loud and then blame it on the drummer. However, playing too loud in places like restaurants, lounges, or private parties can totally detract from the guest's enjoyment of your performance. Follow this one simple rule. Ensure that you can hear nearby conversations slightly above your own volume. And if people are sitting there cupping their hands, to their ear, struggling to hear each other, you're probably playing a tad too loud. Before your set, you can check with the venue host and ask them to alert you if any volume adjustments are needed. This reassures them, and it helps you avoid losing future gigs due to volume issues that you might not have even known you had. For commandment number 4, I want to thank Bill Bosley 763 for a great suggestion. How did I miss this one? Thou shalt not stare at your tablet. It's okay to have a tablet handy for occasional use. We as solo acoustic musicians sometimes have extremely large repertoires that we need to maintain because oftentimes we don't know what we're going to need to play or what the gig is going to require. And because of this, we sometimes need to refer to our tablets for a song that we haven't played in a while or for a new request that just came in from our audience. But you should aim to know the majority of your core songs by heart. Not only will it keep your eyes and ears on the audience, which will improve your engagement with them, but it'll free you up and allow you to perform the songs from your heart. So ditch the crutch of the tablet whenever possible. Commandment number 5, thou shalt not talk too much in between songs. This is another review from our last video. It's a personal pet peeve of mine when artists ramble between songs. Some banter is fine at an original gig or at concerts where the crowd is specifically there for you, but in most cases, less is definitely more when it comes to chit-chat.
Shut your mouth.
I needed someone
Wait,
to
shut your
work
mouth. Shut your mouth.
I'm sorry, what did
You're
you
just
say?
coming off stupid.
Remember, if you're playing a bar, restaurant, or a private party, the guests are really not there for you per se. And your little personal stories may not be as charming to them as you may think. And fewer words means fewer opportunities for you to stick your foot in your mouth. Or maybe I'm just projecting. Commandment number 6, thou shalt not shamelessly ask for tips or self-promote. I've covered this topic as well in other videos like the art of the tip cup, link in the description. But for now, let's keep it concise. It's a delicate balance, and it's also dependent on where in the country and where in the world you are, as different regions do have different tipping cultures. So this may not apply in a city like Nashville, for example. But in New York City, I believe you should have the tip cup visible, but never directly solicit tips forcibly from guests. Instead, use a more subtle approach. And if someone does contribute to the tip cup, definitely express your gratitude over the mic after the song. This polite gesture will subtly inform others about the tipping option without applying too much pressure. Also, avoid shamelessly promoting your merchandise. Again, balance is key. For this next one, I'd like to thank K. Sullivan 1088. This is commandment number 7, and thou shalt not take long set breaks. Pretty simple and self-explanatory. There are a few reasons to keep your breaks short. First of all, it can set a bad tone with the venue owner if you're stretching your breaks out too long. Remember, you're being paid to play, not to enjoy an extended vacation between sets. While you are entitled, of course, to a set break, don't overdo it. Also, taking too long of a set break can kill the vibe. Imagine you've worked so hard to get the crowd pumped up and get them into you, and then there's this prolonged silence. It's like hitting the pause button on a party. So feel it out and know when it's time to get back up there and start your next set. Keep the energy high and the good times rolling. Commandment number 8. This one is sort of related to the previous one. Thou shalt not ignore the atmosphere in the room. This job is all about reading the room. For example, the age demographic in the room can provide insight into the musical preferences of the audience. So if possible, you might even want to chat with some audience members beforehand to gauge their tastes. This helps you choose the songs that match the room's mood. For example, let's say the room is all upbeat and buzzing with activity. Stick to the feel-good jams. The vibe is very chill, somber. Don't go and play Nirvana songs or heavy metal songs. Pay attention to the room and the guests, and check their feedback while you're playing. If you see they're nodding along and enjoying it, keep playing that type of music. Pretty simple, really. Just pay attention. Number 9. Thou shalt not play extended loops and solos. All right, let's talk about extended loops and solos. This is another review from the last video, so I'll keep it short and sweet. We guitarists love them. But unless your act specifically features looping and extended solos as part of your package, it's really best to keep them concise. No one really wants to watch endless noodling. Your average listener certainly doesn't. So throw in a solo where appropriate, but wrap it up before you start losing the crowd's interest. It's all about leaving them wanting more. Number 10, and this is another behavioral one, and a big one. Thou shalt not drink. Let's talk about the drinking scene for a minute. It's okay to have 1 or 2 drinks if the environment allows, though I rarely do. Just don't get caught up in the atmosphere and start drinking like you're one of the patrons. If you want to come across as a pro, behave more like a member of the staff, almost like you're hosting the event yourself. Guests may offer to buy you drinks, but if you start accepting too many, you might hit your limit right in the middle of the gig. And trust me, you don't want to be tipsy during a performance. It throws off your game and people do notice. So save the drinking for when you're off the clock and you're enjoying the party as a guest, not while you're the one on the stage. For number 11, I'd like to thank Joe Rebel Music. This is a good one too. Thou shalt not go silent during set breaks. So here you are, you've been setting the perfect vibe in the room, creating a wonderful backdrop for your audience. Now it's time for your set break. You don't want the room to suddenly go completely silence. Crickets, crickets, crickets. If you're at a restaurant or a bar, you can simply ask them to turn up the house music. They usually have background tunes ready to go and you're all set. But if you're playing a private event where you're the only source of music, you need to have a plan. A simple iPad or iPhone with an appropriate playlist plugged into your system will make that smooth transition seamless, keeping that ambiance alive. Number 12, thou shalt not be unapproachable. Here's a new one that was brought up in the comments, and I thank you for it. It's so true. It's essential that you have to be polite and approachable at all times to your audience, both while you're playing and during set breaks. Look, I get it. You're in the middle of a song and you spot someone with that eager look in their eye walking up to you. Maybe even they're holding out their cell phone to request a song or ask you a question or even start a conversation right when you're in the middle of playing. I've been there and it is frustrating. However, it's really important to remain courteous and handle it as best you can. This is my personal go-to facial expression when I'm playing. I'm playing, I can't really talk to you. Your approach may differ. Or when you're about to take that much needed 15-minute set break to reset and someone stops to talk to you about their guitar collection or share that their son just made the 5th grade marching band. You just want to go to the bathroom and pee and take 5 minutes of a break, but you have to sit there and listen to this story. Remember, being approachable and engaging with your audience is part of what makes your performance memorable. It's these little interactions that can turn a good gig into a great one. So keep smiling.
Keep smiling. Keep shining.
Stay patient and enjoy the connections that you make with the audience along the way, even if it's sometimes inconvenient.
That's what friends are for.
Number 13, thou shalt not exploit the perks. What does this mean? Well, most bars and restaurants will include a meal, and hosts at a private event usually will make sure that you're fed as well, right? It's a sweet deal and you should enjoy it, but remember why you're there. To play music, not to feast like it's the Last Supper. So keep it simple with the food. Don't order the fancy stuff on the menu. Don't order the surf and turf. It just comes across as wrong, like you're milking the venue for all you can. I don't think it looks good. You're not really there to chow down. You're there to play. So while you should appreciate the free food and perks, just don't overdo it. Number 14, thou shalt not be a spoiled sport. And the last one I put Spoilsport. Somebody told me it's spoiled sport. So let's be real. Sometimes that crowd, they're just not feeling it. They're not engaged. They don't care. And they're not going to leave you any tips. That's just the way it goes sometimes. Don't let it kill your vibe. As a pro, you just have to kind of deal with it and move on. I've heard musicians sometimes grumbling when the audience isn't reacting how they like. And I get it, but it's part of the gig. And think of it as a chance for you to learn and grow. Maybe there's something you could have done differently, maybe not. But you are getting paid to play music, so you're already ahead in my book. Number 15, thou shalt not play the same set in the same order every time. Or, as I'd like to say, thou shalt mix it up. Especially if you're playing at a spot where everyone knows you, where you play there often, that old set list can get really, really tiring. When the bartender can predict your next tune, it's time for a change-up. Also, when you switch it up, you also keep yourself more engaged, and that comes across and translates into the crowd. It's important. Another thing is, add new songs to your set list whenever you can. Try to keep it fresh. Number 16, this one just came in as I was making this video, and I'd like to thank No Problem Guitar 7395. Thou shalt not count your tips in front of the audience. Like the old Kenny Rogers song, The Gambler, said, never count your money when you're sitting at the table. I personally do not follow this one, although I am very discreet about counting my tips at the end of the gig. When it's time to break down and pack up, I'll just kind of like go into the corner, organize my tip money, count it, put it in my pocket. But perhaps I should even change that one and just count my money when I get home. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. Almost done. Number 17, thou shalt not forgo your original music. Now, you don't have to announce it and make a big stink about it. I'm going to play an original song now. But as long as your song stylistically fits in with the other music, definitely throw your original music in there. And this is another one that I am guilty of. And I'll tell you a quick story. There was a time years ago when I always used to follow the principle of putting original music into my set. And there was this Greek restaurant that I played at regularly, and I would play mostly covers, but I would routinely play one of my original songs called Let's Stay Home. If you want to hear my originals, I have some links down in the description, by the way. Anyway, one of the servers, after months of me playing there, had hired me to play his wedding. And he called me up and explained to me all of the songs and artists that he wanted performed at his wedding. And on this list, he had a song. He told me, I want to hear that song, Let's Stay Home, that you always play, but I don't know who the artist is. And it was funny because I informed him that I was the artist. I'd never announced that it was original. He had no idea, but he loved the song. And imagine how good it made me feel when I learned that my song had spoken to him. So I'm going to make a conscious effort to follow this rule again, and I'm going to make sure that no matter what, I always put some of my original tunes into the set list. Number 18. This is from Jiv and Bansi 9640. I don't know what that is. Jiv and Bansi 9640. Thou shalt not disparage or put down any song or musical style. Don't put down any style or song while speaking on the microphone, especially if someone makes a request. Don't poo-poo somebody's request. You could inadvertently insult someone who likes that song. You don't want to insult somebody else's tastes. Remember, you're not there to be the authority on what's good and what isn't, even though we all think we are the authority on what's good and what isn't. This isn't your classroom. You're there to entertain. So always keep in mind that your role is to create an enjoyable experience for everyone and respect all musical tastes and requests, even if they don't align with your personal preferences. Number 19, the final one. We didn't get to 20. I just couldn't think of another one. This is another one from Jiv and Bansi 9640. Jiv and Bansi, you're hitting it hard. I like it. Thou shalt not take forever when tuning. Couple of tips when you're tuning. Definitely make sure the guitar is muted so they're not hearing it through the speakers as you tune. Of course, the guitar has to be in perfect tune, so you're going to have to take enough time that you need to tune it, but try not to make it take forever if you could help it. And if you're doing many altered tunings that you have to retune on the fly, if you can pull it off, consider having a second guitar that's already tuned up with that altered tuning and ready to go. When you hit it big, you can have your guitar tech sitting off on the side of the stage ready to toss you a perfectly in-tune guitar for every new song. So there you have it, folks. 19 commandments of solo acoustic. Hopefully this time we didn't leave anything out so that I can move on with my life and stop making commandment videos. But as always, feel free to leave your thoughts and comments in the suggestions below or just say hello. I really do appreciate it. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.